welcome to the other three amigos, Las Damas, your weekly unofficial SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division podcast with Declan McCormack, Eileen Ring and John O'Sullivan. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So sit back, put the feet up, because it's TOTAP time.
On this week's Las Damas, somebody found the road to Cork, which means Eva Mangan is now in the Irish senior squad. It's going to be a busy transfer window. Why the LOI belongs to everyone. We look back at all last weekend's fixtures. We're joined by Jessica Farry of Ocean FM and LOI TV to discuss all things Sligo Rovers. Tommy Hewitt explains to Jess why he was so unhappy with the refereeing performance of Alan Patchell on Saturday. The most underrated player in the league is... and much, much more on this week's Las Damas, where unfortunately one of the amigos is under the weather. Hello and welcome to TOTAP Las Damas, Season 3, Episode 13, Episode 207 of the full TOTAP backlog. I realised listening back I've said full TOTAP itinerary on the last few weeks, and itinerary makes no sense whatsoever in that context, Eileen. So I'm trying to correct my use of the English language.
To be honest, Declan, it's a good start because anything we say makes very little sense. It's a good start for where we continue for the rest of the pod.
Yeah, might start just putting in blanks where people can insert their own words as they go along during the pod, might be the best way to do things. Guys, you've heard from Eileen Ring already, who is my only amiga tonight because unfortunately John O'Sullivan is under the weather and unable to join us. So delighted to say we will be joined by Jessica Farry later on to discuss all things Shamrock. We will be joined.
Don't cut that out.
Oh man! Delighted to say we will be joined by Jessica Farry later on to discuss all things Sligo Rovers, the only Rovers, the real Rovers, and looking forward to having a good chat with her. Eileen, we'll pop straight into it. The last week in Irish women's football, as we predicted last week, we did have an Irish squad announcement, and as you predicted or wanted, there is at least one player in there who is there to experience the setup, do some training, see how they get on, and that player is Cork City's own Eva Mangan. Quite a moment for Eva Mangan, quite a moment for Danny Murphy, quite a moment for Cork City Football Club.
Yeah, it's incredible for the player formerly known as TOTAP's Eva Mangan. A brilliant achievement. A brilliant achievement for her and very well deserved. Like she's been incredible since she broke through at City. And I think from a Cork City point of view, I think it's really big that a player is getting a call up while at Cork City. They're not being told move to a Dublin club to get a call up or anything like that. So I think from that point of view, it's really big, a good incentive maybe to keep players here, attract players here in the future. I suppose it goes back to our point as well last week about player like management being out of games, and like for a long time FAI staff didn't actually know where Cork was. They didn't know how to get here. They didn't have access to a map to get here. Now thankfully we have somebody on the coaching staff who lives here, so obviously it's a big help. It is a big help, and look, as I said, I think it was important for the league in general. I know Erin's in there again, and I think Erin's going to be a regular feature in the squad anyway. I think it's a great push for players in the league to see that you can be noticed while playing here. And look, while I'm sure there's bigger and brighter things ahead for Eva Mangan, as I said, it's brilliant to see her taking this first really big step while she is still at City.
Yeah, there's lots of TOTAP connections there. No, Eileen, actually, that you mentioned it. Colin Healy is still the king of everything TOTAP. He's still our hero, the one man in which everybody in TOTAP Towers completely trusts. Obviously, Eva Mangan was once upon a time TOTAP's Eva Mangan. Now, to be fair, we did pull the sponsorship last season, but we did go back this year and the club refused to take any sponsorship money from us for any players. So, it is what it is. But she will always be known as TOTAP's Eva Mangan. So, yes, TOTAP does have a presence in the next Irish senior squad. And we're quite happy to have so. We have two presents because Colin Healy is there as well. So, look, everything is great from the TOTAP point of view anyway. What are the chances of a result next Friday night against Sweden, Eileen?
I think we have a good chance of. I'm going to predict we're going to come out with 4 points. We're going to win on Friday and we're going to draw away. Now, as we know, I'm very foolishly optimistic. Foolishly. But that's what I think is going to happen. I said last week Denise is in a knee brace. She seems to have been training away all week and is travelling to Ireland by the looks of social media today. So hopefully she'll be involved. I speculated last week, would Katie McCabe have to go to Australia? Not only did she have to go to Australia, she had to play 90 minutes because why would you
Yeah,
not play her for 90 full minutes?
fucking
Bananas stuff. But look, to be fair, and they spoke to Eileen Gleeson about it in the press conference, and they seem to have strategies in place whereby the squad are kind of coming in this evening tonight, and she's not in until Tuesday, and they kind of have sleep strategies and things like that. And look, obviously, Katie McCabe is a world class athlete who minds herself impeccably well, so hopefully she can come in and I suppose the strategies that they've set out in terms of her getting rest and her bringing her body clock back around again will all be successful, and we'll see her on the pitch on Friday night doing what she does best. But yeah, look, I am confident of a result on Friday night. But look, again, I'll probably be upset, but for now, I'm very confident.
Well, if we get 4 points from those games, I will then say that the game in Cork against France will sell out because we will still have something to play for in that game. So it will be more than interesting then. Should the men's games, First Division and Premier Division games on Friday night, Eileen, should they have been moved to Thursday night and allow the women's game a free run at Friday night?
Well, like it's certainly going to hit the attendance in the Aviva. Like I know, like a lot of people I know that'll be based in Dublin, they're going to go to their League of Ireland games. Like they're going to go support their sides in the League of Ireland. I think most football fans would have club over country. I know I would have club over country. As a football supporter, I think it's a shame, but it's a hard one because like League of Ireland clubs would probably argue, why are we moving for an international game? I don't think there's
They're
probably
moving in a few weeks' time. The fixtures have been moved to a Thursday night. We're playing Cove on a Thursday night anyway, our men's team.
Why is that?
To facilitate, because the European Championships kick off on the Friday
for
night.
the Euros. Okay. Well, then I'm going to flip them back. Yeah, they probably should be. You saw a game on Thursday night this week, and it was obviously successful. They're moving games in a few weeks on a Friday night. So yeah, because you're going to the attendance is going to be hit without a shadow of a doubt. People will put the said club first, and that's not the supporters' fault. The supporters shouldn't have to make that choice, but it's the FAI. So kind of says that.
Yes. It's always the FAI. Actually, they were all in Turner's Cross on Friday night. Mark Scanlon, Jerry the President, numerous members of the communications team, because the Cork City Treaty United game was part of the LGBTQ takeover. It's kind of in preparation for Pride Month next month, which also gets massive backing from the LOI and the LOI community. It's just a great thing to see, isn't it? It's just one of those things that should be second nature, shouldn't even be talked about anymore, but it is. And here's the LOI and the LOI community doing their part.
Yeah, it's something like that shouldn't have to be a thing, but it does have to be a thing, unfortunately. Because look, you can only have to open up a newspaper at the weekend. You only have to open up social media, and you can see like there's an awful lot of hatred people for essentially just being who they are. I think look, we're really lucky in the women's game. It's not an issue. Not at all. We've a huge amount of really good ambassadors in our game that are openly gay and would speak very, very well about it and their experiences of coming out and stuff. And I think that's brilliant. But in the men's game, obviously, it's incredibly important because there's nothing to be seen from players. I understand why there's not. So it's important that I think if you're a young lad or you're a young girl and you're supporting Waterford or Drogheda or Shelburne or Cork City or whoever it is, and maybe you open and you see a little pride flag behind your crest, like that, you think, yeah, like this is somewhere that I'm welcome. And that's huge, and that shouldn't upset you. Like anyone who's listening to this podcast, that's not going to upset them anyway, because it's not, we wouldn't have that kind of listenership. But like I think in the men's game and supporters of the men's game, it can be a really, really toxic place. It can be a really horrible place. And so I said in the women's game, look, these things, we have a lot of very good ambassadors there anyway. So it's not an issue. But in the men's game, I think it's really important. And again, from a Cork City point of view, it's something that, pardon the pun, but it gives me huge pride to see anytime Cork City have the pride badge behind the flag, anytime Cian Coleman has the pride armband on, like it does give me huge pride, like that's my football club and they're proud to represent something. And I think we'll probably see the pride armband. It was held on Cork City last year all season, well past Pride Month. I'm not sure, maybe that was maybe a Kitman shout out to his little sister perhaps, but look, it's great to see. And as I said, if it only helps one person maybe feel welcome or feel maybe this is a space that I'd be welcome in and I'd be safe in, and that's the thing, is it's safety and feeling somewhere that you belong, I think, then it's job well done. And it's a brilliant initiative. It's brilliant to see. And I saw the TG Carr game, like Mark Scanlon spoke before it, and he spoke so well, as the people from the charity. So huge credit to the league for doing it. And it's something they've run every year now for the last couple of years, haven't they? And it seems to always be very successful. So more of that, more of it.
And look, if you are listening to this and you are struggling, you are unsure of yourself and your place in the world, our DMs are always open. Give us a shout, and if we can't help you, we'll certainly put you in touch with somebody who can. It's very important to realise that you're not alone. Everybody's willing to help, so bear that in mind, please. Eileen, we said last week that Abby Brophy had left Wexford, and this week there are more rumours, shall we say, of players departing clubs around the country. I think it's fair to say we in TOTAP Towers would not expect Emily Corbett to be present in Wexford come the end of the transfer window. And as I said, I think there's going to be a lot of movement out of clubs during this upcoming transfer window.
Yeah, I think we in TOTAP Towers are now aware that silly season is well and truly underway. A lot of kind of information coming into to all of us. Players leaving their clubs here, not necessarily, not that we know where they're going yet, and rumours of players going abroad. If rumours are to be believed, there'll be 3 clubs looking to fill number 10 jerseys, as the 3 number 10s are all off to Bristol City. So they'll not be playing together apparently. But again, time will tell. But a very interesting, I'd say, kind of 68 weeks ahead in terms of movement, both within the league and from the league abroad, and also from abroad into the league. Not just necessarily people coming back, but I just have heard whispers that 1 or 2 clubs will be maybe going down the treaty route, and said looking outside the league, you could see how successful it's been for treaty, and as said, looking at that, and the fact that, like, I suppose what helps that as well is that I think the league is becoming a really good option for people. They look at it and look at this, even like the likes of Dana Sheriff last year. She came to the league for a year, excelled when she was here, and went on to a really good professional contract elsewhere. I think it's Switzerland she's in. Said people are viewing this league now as kind of a good stepping stone and a good shop window, which is brilliant, because as supporters of the league, we get to see a higher caliber player, even if it is only a year they're here for. And they're experienced players that are coming into the league, and we've such a young league, and I think the league's going to keep getting younger as our 17s and 19s leagues develop. There's just going to be more of those players filtering through, so to have experienced players there for them to learn from, it's brilliant for our league, I think, in the long run.
That's something that was the next question I was going to ask, Aileen, is basically, if clubs are starting to bring in players from outside the league, you're now seeing the development of players out of the academies. It's probably the last 2 years, really. This year, I think you've seen a lot more, and in the next 2-3 years, you're going to see even more coming through. So with the academy development, players coming from outside, there's a cohort of group of players that are going to get squeezed and probably end up with nowhere to go, and that's going to be difficult for some people to deal with.
Very much so. And like you can probably see it happening already. Like I said, some of the names that are kind of coming to us during the week, it's kind of like, where, if you're kind of not happy with the fact that you're not getting game time, where do you go? And look, and it might just be a case if you go back and you play like junior football or intermediate football, whatever you want to call it, and that is going to be really hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. But I think for me, this isn't a professional league. I understand some players are getting a few bob, and no issue with that. But like, this is a huge commitment, and if I kind of feel at any level of sport, if it gets to a point where sport's not enjoyable, like football's supposed to be, is a hobby for it's a hobby for 99% of people in this league, like, and if it's not enjoyable to you and you're not getting time, like, just step back. Do you know what I mean? And as I said, I don't think there's any shame in it or anything like that, but I think you're right, and we're going to start seeing it now. There is going to be that squeeze because the talent that's coming through in this country I think it's special. Like, the under 16s had a brilliant win again, like against France. Like, that's huge. And like, none of those girls are playing senior national league yet. Like, so that's a big cohort of really, really talented players to come in. So yeah, look, it'll be hard and it'll be an interesting one over the next few seasons.
Very quickly, you mentioned interest from across the water. I mean, you've always said Leo O'Leary was probably going to go this window. I would presume Eva Mangan's inclusion in the Irish senior squad is all of a sudden going to put a spotlight on her from clubs across the water. It's only natural, you know. Would you expect to see a number of players, maybe 5 or 6 players, as many as that, leave the league during this window?
Yeah, and look, I think Erin McLaughlin's another, like, she's been in international squads for a long time now. My understanding is she wanted to finish her degree, which is 100% the correct thing to do, but that's finished now. So I suppose for her, she's in kind of a difficult position because there's Champions League football, and I presume she'll feel a huge tie to Peamount and want to stay for that. But at the same time, maybe the time has come for her to make her move. Yeah, definitely 3 or 4 we're going to see. And again, if the 19s, I think, have a big tournament, you could see a couple of them, like, because I said they're more than capable of going over, like, and now is the time to go, probably more than, like, if you go in December, you're chasing tail a little bit in that you're coming in midway through a season, whereas now you can go in, you get your full pre-season. But look, Eve obviously is one. We know there's been interest in her for a while now. And that's the thing, these players, it's not that clubs are going to come in from the UK on a whim, but like, the Irish market is there. It's an easily tapped into market, because you don't have to pay a penny. Like, they just go and that's it. And girls are delighted to get the opportunity and you're not going too far. And like, the English league is so big over here, like, it's so well marketed by them even over here, that it's a huge draw for players. So yeah, I do think we'll see a couple moving in the next few weeks.
Be interesting to see what happens. We'll move on to the underage stuff. Obviously, there was no under 19s because that finished last week for the moment. I presume it'll be after the leaving cert now before that starts again. But in the under 17 age group, Group A, Bows 5, Drogheda 0. Shelburne won away at Finn Harps, and Shamrock Rovers beat Dundalk 2-0 in Dundalk. In Group B, Athlone 2, Sligo 1, Treaty 2, Peamount 4, Galway 4, DLR 2, and St. Pat's 4, Mayo 2. And in Group C, Wexford beat Cove 2-0, Cork City 1-3-1 away in Kerry, and Bray Wanderers and Waterford United drew 0-0. This is where the pod falls down now, because John isn't here to explain to us all the permutations about what's happening in the groups and everything else, but he will be back for the next pod. It won't be next week because we're taking next week off with the international break, but we'll be back in a fortnight's time, and John will hopefully be back. Eileen, you headed to Dublin on Saturday.
I did.
You went with optimism, with pride, you went with hope in your heart. And what was it, 45 seconds?
Was it 40 even? It is ultimately the hope that kills you.
Yeah. It was like, there was a message in the chat group before I even saw it. Before we saw the goal in the stream, there's a mess. I'm just fucking off the Peamount now, you know? It was like, okay, what's after happening there? Then I saw it and I was like, oh man. Just like, you can't start like that, and you can't give Shelburne that start, obviously.
No, you can't. And look, we've spoke really well of Cork City a lot of times this season, not always, because sometimes we've hammered them. I'm actually not going to hammer them tonight. I think it's a young side who are learning, and we're going to have these days. And I think it really took the wind out of their sails. Not only the fact that the goal came so early, the fact that we've a bad history up in Talca Park, I think weighs heavily on the minds, and the nature of the manner with the goal went in, I think, just knocked the stuffing out of Clodagh. I really felt for her, and like, she took a while to recover from it. And look, to be fair, I think Danny shouted on something like, Clodagh, it's not your fault, we're asking you to play out from the back. These things are going to happen. And I think after the match, I saw Owen Weirin's interview, and like City's goal comes from them playing out from the back and being caught as well. And he kind of says the same thing. Like, if you're playing out from the back, these things are going to happen. And they are. I hate playing out from the back. Everybody knows that. I hate it. I have no idea why every single manager in the world is obsessed with doing it. Like, because I think it puts unnecessary pressure on teams. Again, it comes down to like this in-game management. Like, City weren't able to change the style, and I can't hammer the management for that, because he was roaring on, go long, and they just wanted to keep playing out from the back. And Shelbourne, obviously they had so much joy from it 40 seconds in. They just kept pressing, and we really struggled with it, really struggled with it. We spoke last week that how important Colleen is to us. She was very good, but she's only at about 20 or 30%. She was holding her hip from the second the game kicked off. Like, you can see she's not fit. Even at that, she caused trouble and scored a goal just out of her own sheer hard work again. But like, she wasn't fit. We were poor. I think we were poor in possession. I just thought it was just one of those days. And as I said, I think this Cork City side is going to have those days, and they have to learn from that. And kind of, in order for them to be better, they have to learn from it, and they have to learn quick, because the top sides will punish you. And as poor as Cork City were, I thought Shelbourne were excellent. They were brilliant. They were buoyed by that goal. They're a team who've probably struggled to score. They are a team who've struggled to score. And when they got that early goal, I think it allowed them to just kick on, like, didn't it? And they were brilliant. Like, and the €10 to go in there, I'd pay it 100 times over to watch Noelle Murray. Like, she was just like 60 minutes of magic, just genuinely. Like, at one stage, like, she took a shot from inside her own half, and I was looking at her, I was like, she's shooting. But yes, she was shooting, and it was only millimeters over the bar. Like, I mean, it's remarkable. Like, the absolute neck of her to even try that, but to try it so well. And just, like, she's a brilliant footballer. Like, and as I said, I think worth the entrance fee anywhere. And she's in outrageously good shape. She's in the shape of her career, and you can see it. And I think her game's even better as a result. But like, I said it to someone today, like, they give Noelle a free role, and I think in an ideal world, Cork City would like to give Eva Mangan a free role and let her just do her thing. But I think on days when things aren't going well, I think Eva's feeling that she's trying to tell other players their jobs, and and again, that's because we're a young side. In Shelbourne, everybody knows their jobs. They all know what they have to do. So Noelle doesn't have to worry about that. That kind of way. And these are like little differences. Yeah. And as you said, Shelbourne, there's a wise man once said there's levels. And on Saturday, there was a big difference in levels.
Noelle Murray's shot actually came from the tip-off after Cork City scored. The centre went back to Noelle, and she saw Clodagh off her goal, or off her line, and she went for it. As you said it was inches over. I didn't actually see it because the stream froze as the ball was in the air. And then it comes back, and Clodagh's behind the goal, and you're going, how wide was it? Because it looked like it was going in. And I thought, it's just my internet. I'll go back and watch it again.
The entire crowd was like, what did she just do? Like, yeah. Because it was just one of those things that it wasn't that there's an open goal, so you're going to shoot. Like, it was just bananas. It's a shame their stream didn't have the camera on my face, because my jaw was literally on the ground. I was like, absolute sauce.
Well, I tell you this much, I've hammered Cork City streams in the past. That Shelbourne stream was a disgrace. An absolute disgrace. It went off 3 or 4 times for 5-6 minutes at a time. Big live view. Don't know what that's in connection with. Thing up in it. Look, it was just, Shelbourne as a football club can do much better than what they did on Saturday. It's not the first time they've had issues with streams at their women's games. They don't have issues with streams at their men's games. They're continually having them with streams at their women's games. And it's just, we're trying to sell the product again, and that was just, it was a joke. It was an absolute joke. There was other areas that were a joke as well, but I'm not going to get into it, to be honest with you. But just for anybody on the Shelbourne commentary team, Ava O'Mahony did not come through the Shelbourne Academy. Poor effort from Shelbourne all round, in my honest opinion. Their use of the word ladies really annoyed somebody who would have very close
I know definitely who that annoyed anyway.
Yeah. So we spoke of Ava O'Mahony, of course, as Sod's Law. Ava gets the third. Alex Kavanagh gets the fifth from a penalty. Absolute stonewall penalty. I felt anyway. Eileen,
Yeah.
presume you've no issues with it. Like it's
No, it was a penalty, like a very penalty.
yeah, very much so, very much so. And obviously, talking to Noelle got the third, wasn't it? Yeah, she set up the second, she got the third.
Looks, to be fair, at the start of the second half, City came out and that real high level of intensity, like that we associate with them at the moment, and that's so positive with them. And then Eva had a chance, and I think the game can kind of change there. And again, we don't take it, and it comes back to small margins. And suddenly it said Shells go and get their fourth, but Ava O'Mahony was brilliant. And look, I suppose from a Shells point of view, you get what you pay for, and from a Cork City point of view, if you don't pay, you're not going to get it. So she was excellent. And it comes back to our point, and I'm going to keep making it, like, we're not investing in our women's side. We're not willing to pay mileage. We're not willing to pay a few bob to players that other clubs are willing to. So unfortunately, we're seeing, like, somebody, as you said, who's come through our underage setup, who's from Cork, who played all her underage football in Lakewood here, and who would love to be playing for Cork City, I would imagine. And it sickens me. It always sickens me to see Cork girls in other shirts, but like, she was excellent. Like, she's such a good footballer, and Owen Weirin spoke really well of her afterwards, because she's so versatile. Like, she's a big asset to any team because she can play to a really high level in a number of positions. And as I said, for them, they're kind of struggling going forward. She was brilliant. She was brilliant going forward, and that's exactly why she's right back in Team of the Week.
You beat me to it. I was just going to say she's versatile enough to be right back in the Team of the Week, because I'll tell you this much now. And I swore I wasn't mentioning Team of the Week because it's a crime against humanity. A crime against humanity that Theresa Knievy isn't in that Team of the Week at right back. I mean, my good God above tonight. Ava O'Mahony played all her football on the left. She didn't cross. She didn't get within 10 feet of the right-hand touchline. Now, I mind play right back. And oh, my good God, as I said, it's just a crime against humanity. Poor Theresa Keaveney, like, my good God, what more does the girl have to do? Let's leave that there before I get more agitated. Second part of your trip, Eileen, was down to PLR Park, where DLR really, really impressed you in a 2-2 draw with Peamount.
Yeah, it was a brilliant game. Desperate attendance. Like, we counted at the start, there was only 33 there at kickoff. 33 people. It's the champions of Ireland. That's very poor. It's not good enough at all. Like, that's like, there has to be some better marketing strategy. But look, that's I suppose a talk for another day. It was a brilliant, brilliant game of football. And like, with DLR, it wasn't that like they got 2 lucky goals. Like, they pushed and they pushed and they pushed, like, till the last minute. Like, I mean, to the point, like, they had opportunities doing it as much as Peamount did. Peamount are really struggling injury-wise again. Like, and they had players on the bench that were very clearly just named on the bench. Like, there was no way they were coming on, because they had some people named at the bench that I don't even think were tagged on. They had other players that were tagged on, but like, they definitely weren't fit to come on, because the last 10 minutes, like, Chloe Maloney was very clearly injured, and they appeared to be playing her as a striker or else like a left winger. With all due respect to Chloe Maloney, because I think she's an excellent, excellent centre back, she can't really play anywhere else. Do you know what I mean? That's not her game anywhere else. Like, you certainly wouldn't be like, I think there might be a left winger in her. Do you know, like, there's no manager has ever said that. Like, so they're obviously really struggling injury wise, and I think they're going to benefit now. There's obviously an international break, and I think it's your favourite bye week afterwards, and they need it, like, because they need to get the players back. You were a Jonah for them. You said they haven't conceded in 5 goals in 5 games, and they conceded 2.
I know.
It was funny, like, the first goal, like, it's an OG. It's like, it goes, like, hits off the post and it hits off the keeper's legs, like, and goes in. Didn't go down as an OG because, like, God forbid we wrote an OG in the women's game and upset someone. But it was, according to the FAI Connect app, Isabel Finnegan got it, I think. And all the reports I've read. And it's not, like, it hits the post. I was in line with it and comes back off her legs. You're checking.
It's an OG. It's in the and
they've
the
changed.
FAI Connect app
They've
have
changed.
it down. They have it down as an OG.
I apologise, but that's changed. Yesterday it was down. It was that was changed, even because I've read a few reports today that it was Isabel Finnegan as well. Now she did, to be fair, like it had come off a corner to keep the ball alive, like a brilliant back heel, and as you said, kind of a bit of a melee, and it comes off Niamh Coombs's legs and goes in, and her head, she's rattled after it, like, and you can see it for a long time afterwards. She's really unsure of herself. And Niamh's a brilliant keeper, and as the game goes on, she makes two particularly incredible saves, like to keep it at 2-2 late on in the game. But I think, like, as good a goalkeeper as she is, she's not a very vocal keeper, and Peamount really missed Niamh Reid Burke in that aspect of it, like for organising and just getting at the players up the pitch to do a little bit more. And look, as I said, she's one of the most successful players. I think she's the most successful player actually in the history of the league, and so you can't. It's kind of hard to replace her. But as I said, I do think Niamh did well, but I thought she was really rattled by that first goal. We spoke last week about Michelle Doonan and how much her pace like could be a threat, and it caused him awful trouble all day long. Like she was brilliant. Like my fear for DLR is that like someone comes in and picks her up. I just hope, like, if you are her, and like I could probably just use Shelburne as an example. Like if a big club comes into you, like look at Shelburne's bench, like look who they had sitting in the stand. At, like it's almost hoarding a squad. Like, do you know what I mean? Their squad is that big. Like, and there's a couple of clubs that, like, it's important as a player, like, to play and to get game time. Like, as much as it's nice to maybe be competing, I think, especially for younger players, it's really important to be playing. And Michelle Doonan is someone who's just getting better every time we see her. And I hope she doesn't kind of maybe get pushed to make a move that would be too soon for her. And as I said, ends up kind of sitting on a bench, because there's probably a couple of cautionary tales around the league in that manner. But like Peamount, Ellen Dolan was brilliant for them. Their equalising goal was an outstanding header. And the penalty, which was a really good save, the first penalty, it was a Stonewall penalty. But like this, the player, she did the foul and then she puts her head in her hands. Like, don't do that anyway. Like, I mean, don't be that honest. Like, don't make it that obvious for the referee. Definitely don't do that. Like, you always have to proclaim your innocence. Like, but now it was a Stonewall penalty, but like there was, if the referee was on the fence, he was like, oh yeah, it's a penalty, all right. But a brilliant save, because it's a good penalty from McLaughlin, isn't it? Like, she tucks it well to the side, but it was a very, very good save. It was just a good game. Who was really impressed me was she was Keelan Dodd. We spoke about missing in Gassy last week, but Keelan Dodd in the centre of Park for DLR was brilliant. Like, I really liked her. She just kicked people, like, do you know what I mean? She was just putting herself in there. She didn't really care about anything, kicking people on the QT, like, and it was just, she's one of these players that, like, you'd hate as an opposition fan, but if she was your player, you'd love her. Like, do you know, like that kind of Gary Deegan-esque, just going around kicking people, breaking up play, just being kind of nasty and getting stuck in. And it was really good to see. Then their second goal is kind of a mix-up at the back, which again is uncharacteristic from Peamount in the last few weeks, but it's a brilliant, brilliant finish from Doonan. And then that penalty. You think it's a penalty. I think it's really soft. I do think it's soft.
All I can say is I thought it was a penalty looking on the stream. But you can't, like, you know what I mean? I have bodies in the way of the stream camera, and that the keeper goes down. And what made me think was the keeper doesn't give out when she gets up. Now, I know Jess Gleeson gets booked for giving out, but the keeper just walked away, and that's what made me think. But there's no way I'm saying it's a penalty. Michelle Doonan's goal, like you said, it's a defensive mix-up. Karen Duggan made a bollocks of it, like. You know, the ball bounces.
I couldn't say it, Declan. I couldn't do it. I couldn't say it.
John's not here, so we can say it. It's okay, you know. The ball bounces off Karen Duggan, and then it's played in, and it's funny. I don't know if it's funny or not, but Chloe Maloney is facing the player who makes the pass, so she cannot see Michelle Doonan. So when she looks around, Doonan's 3 yards beyond Karen Duggan and herself, but that's just her pace. She's onside when the ball is played. And Chloe Maloney spends 2 minutes giving out to the referee or giving out to the linesman for not flagging her offside. but she's giving out about something she can't see because she's faced the other way and her back is to Michelle Doonan, you know? And I was just thinking, like,
But she's dead
this
right
is
to
what
give
I
out,
want my
like.
players doing. I
Yeah.
want them giving out and I want them appealing for stuff, but she couldn't see it. It all happened behind her. She had no idea whether Michelle Doonan was onside or offside. But when she looks around and Doonan is so far clear, she just presumes she had to be offside. So she starts the argument. And it's actually Karen Duggan that pulls her and says, come on, we need to kick off. But I just thought it was a very kind of given insight into how players at the top level think. Like, as we said, we might discuss with Jess later on, like, but Sligo didn't give out about the disallowed goal that they had, and I think that cost them later in the game when the referee gave decisions against them. But as I said, it was just interesting to see the psyche of Chloe Maloney giving out about something she couldn't possibly see because it all happened behind her back.
Yeah, and like she's right, like you have to be willing really to just swear that black is white, and probably realistically, like you firmly believe it. Like she firmly believes now that Michelle Doonan, it's not just given out for the sake of it. Like, do you know what I mean? She really does. And as you said, it's a psyche of maybe a player at a top team. But yeah, I think the penalty, like it's one of those that, like, if that's given against the team I support, I'm going mad. Like I like Avril Brearley is kind of in on goal. I don't think that she goes down easily. My mother was behind the goal and she did. She very much thought she went down way too easily. I think that's football and she makes the right call to go down. But it's given. And do you know what Jess Hennessy was like, or not Jess Hennessy, Jess Gleeson became like you when you go on one of your rants and you do the twisty head thing from Bosco years ago. So it just starts and she got progressively thicker. And that's that was I was like, oh, and it just kept going until she got booked, and then someone else was like, he's not going to change his mind. But it's frustrating. I think from DLR's point of view, it's hard to take. Like, you go to somewhere like Peamount and you've had this tough season and you're giving everything you can give, and then you kind of feel, and look, again, we'll talk about it in the Sligo game later on, I'm sure, you're doing everything you can, and then there's decisions made that like you feel really strongly are incorrect against you, and it's so hard and it's so frustrating for them. But I'd have to just give huge credit to DLR. I thought they were excellent, and as I said, it wasn't that like when Peamount scored then that they sat back. They never sat back. They never retreated back. And they stayed so positive the whole time. They had outlets the whole time. Everyone they brought off the bench were able to offer something. They all just ran themselves into the ground. And it was really, really good to see. And from Peamount's point of view, I think they'll be disappointed. They were quiet. They were really quiet. Like Ellen Dolan and Karen Duggan were trying to kind of G the team up. They were just a little bit subdued. I don't know, is it just that the amount of injuries that they've had has kind of got to them a little bit? But it was unusual to see. Maybe a side that normally has a lot of vocal players, but like Karen Duggan was visibly, you could see her, like she was trying to G them up. But I do think a lot of it maybe said starts with Nemo and goal a lot of the time. And then if you take that away, maybe said that kind of filtered through the team a little bit. But a brilliant game of football, a really, really good game of football.
Brilliant game of football and a brilliant result for DLR. Can I just say it as well now? I'm retiring my predictions as well.
Oh yeah, I thought of you after.
They won't be back. They won't be back. So look, I get one wrong and that's it. I'm done and dusted. While all that was going on, I was watching Wexford and Treaty as well. And I have to say, Eileen, if you told me after an hour or there'd be 3 goals in this game, I would have had you sectioned. Like, there was just, there was nothing happening. Not that there was nothing happening, but both sides were very equal. As you said last night, they were cancelling each other out. And it just looked like 1 goal max would win the game. Aileen Clancy belts one in from 25 yards into the bottom corner, gives Wexford the lead. Then Kaylee Box equalised, again from Stephanie Young. Good work out wide from Stephanie Young. And Kylie Murphy's header from a corner wins it. Then there's 3 goals, I think in about 13 or 15 minutes or something like that. You're kind of watching it going, where has all this come from? In a game where it did not look like there was going to be a goal, and if it had finished 0-0, it wouldn't have surprised me in the slightest.
No, look, I watched it back this morning and I wasn't going to watch the first half after you said don't watch the first half, but I did. I kind of flew through the first half and there wasn't much to talk about, to be fair. You were correct. Which, yeah, like up to 60 minutes, there's as you said, like there's not a whole pile. They really are cancelling each other out, and two good sides. And I think it was hard. The conditions down there looked really shit.
Yeah.
But like Wexford, I suppose Wexford are mad because like they've added so many players in the last few years, but like ultimately their successful games this season, like they've relied on their old reliables. I'm sure they won't like me referring to them as old, but like Kylie Murphy, like with the winner from a Kira Rossiter goal from Kira Rossiter corner. As I said, like maybe they tried to change too much there. Maybe they tried to add too much. And as I said, maybe that's kind of what's went wrong for them. But I think Wexford are going, it's a huge 3 points for them. It was badly needed, like if John, to just make John look less silly. So like for John's sake, I'm really glad they got it. And I think that's really going to help him this week on his recovery. But like I don't think Treaty will be, I think Treaty will be annoyed, but like it was I suppose the 3 points would have been bigger for Wexford, because they needed that kind of win against a side. Like I know they had the win, but it was against Sligo, and it was against Sligo team that was quite down on its luck. But to dig that out, and the way Wexford have went this season, like you kind of think when Treaty equalised that, oh, it's Treaty that will kick on, and it wasn't. And Jesus, the header from Kylie was brilliant. Like it was a brilliant run, but even
Yeah.
like she's clear of the front post by the time she gets it, and to direct it back across, it's a brilliant header. So yeah, I'd look. Will this be a kind of a corner turner for them? I'm not sure. To go back to John's point last week, they're kind of slow in how they move the ball, like aren't they? They have
Yeah.
Rossi who's got that kind of pace, and maybe Keola Bergen a little bit, but I think they need to be more direct when they are moving the ball. I think they have a big tendency to kind of go sideways a lot.
Just want to back something up to the previous game again because I forgot to mention it, but DLR conceded from a corner again. You just reminded me there with Kylie Murphy, so I just wanted to mention that because somebody did point out at the start of the season that they thought they might struggle from corners. And obviously Ellen Dolan isn't the biggest player on the pitch either to be getting her head
But
to that
what a
ball. It was
header.
pretty
It's a
unbelievable
great
header,
header.
but like she should need a step ladder to get up to it, to be honest.
Yeah,
with
like
you,
it was such a good header, and there was such force behind it. I thought it was Chloe Maloney at first, like it was real centre halves, proper like boom header, like
Yeah,
it's a great header.
yeah. But as you said, Kylie Murphy got as good as, if not a better header in that Wexford victory. Hugh Strong was suspended, as it turned out. He wasn't on the sideline, according to FAI Connect anyway. But again, that suspension wasn't included in the list of weekly suspensions issued by the FAI to cover the SSE Airtricity leagues. So maybe, I know I'm the only one in the country who has my being about, or who has a being bonded about this thing, like this stuff. But if the FAI wanted everything treated with respect and treated the same way, then why are the suspensions of the women's games not on the suspension lists that are issued to the media and for supporters to read? I don't know. It's just me again, as I said. And while all that was happening, Sligo Rovers were unlucky to lose 2-0 at home to Athlone. And I'm delighted to say we have been joined by one of the stars of the LOI commentary teams, Jessica Farry, who does a lot of Sligo Rovers home games, both men and women's, has joined us to educate us all on how things have been going in Sligo this season. Jess, I suppose, stupid question, but how have things been going in Sligo this season?
Yeah, suppose it's been a difficult start to the season. There's no doubt about it. No matter what way you look at it, just 3 points on board. It's been tough, as you would expect it to be. To be fair, like you're looking at the squad that every other club has kind of put together this year, and you know Sligo Rovers have a very young team. They have been anyway relying heavily on youth players and players who've come through the academy. Signed a few new players this year, but in fairness to manager Tommy Hewitt, I don't think he's been able to name the same starting 11 for 2 games in a row. There's been an awful lot of injuries, and not just injuries, there's been players unavailable for various reasons, personal reasons, some work commitments, and that's the nature of it when, you know, that they're effectively amateur. You can't really blame players for missing games for whatever things they have going on in their life. Struggling to get a win. As you can see, they've got no win this year in either the All-Ireland Cup or the league. They're looking a little bit better, dare I say it, which sounds really funny when you see they lose 2-0 to Athlone over the weekend. But players are starting to gradually, slowly come back from injury. And Tommy's kind of juggling with trying to get his best players in and fit players in where they want to play. Like, I think he spoke last week or 2 weeks ago, a player of Alice Lilly's quality who he hasn't been able to start earlier on in the year, and he kind of said she's probably the unluckiest player there because she's got bundles of ability. She's an underage Irish international, and yet she was on the bench for a few games at the start because he wasn't sure where to fit her in, and then he brings her on and she makes a huge difference. And it's a very new squad. There's an awful lot of new players, a lot of young players, a lot of players under the age of 18 who are there. So it's been tough. And I think when players do get kind of start coming back from injury, you'll obviously see a much better Sligo Rovers side, but they might actually start kind of giving a better account of themselves because it's been really tough. And I think that defeat to Wexford, that heavy defeat to Wexford, was a real kick in the teeth, because before that you were thinking they haven't really played that many teams around them in the league maybe, and then you get hammered by Wexford, and at that point you're thinking, God, this is going to be a really, really tough season. But losing to Athlone, again, it was a 2-0 defeat, but the signs were an awful lot better there. And like Eileen on the podcast last week, I was listening, and Eileen, you kind of said you would fear for Sligo against Athlone. I think a lot of people would have thought the same, and I thought the same as well. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see them put up the fight they did, considering the players they were missing.
Yeah, like I suppose with Sligo at the weekend especially, and I said last week, I think if Athlone scored early, I think Sligo could be in big trouble. So like to give credit to Tommy Hewitt and to the side, especially coming off the week before, I thought the character they showed was brilliant, and I actually thought they were the better team, to be honest. A different referee, and I'm sure we'll get into it in a while, on a different day, and it's a completely different game, and it is one of those, I think I said as well last week, they've no luck. Like Sligo have like minus on the luck front with injuries, with the way the fixtures have fallen, and now we're like refereeing decisions at the weekend. Like, it's just really hard to keep your squad up. But I suppose are you aware of I suppose where like the likes of Emma Hansbury, McGrory, Doherty are the comeback trail? Are they far off? Will they be back in the next couple of weeks, or is it kind of another couple of months off, or do you know?
Yeah, I think they're all a bit of a mixture. Before Saturday's game, Emma Doherty and Yvonne Hedigan were doing runs before the game. Now, Emma Doherty's injury is, I think it's a broken wrist or it's a broken hand injury, or hand or something like that. And that was a freak incident. I think she tripped in training and landed on her hand and broke something. I think it was something as simple as that. And literally all she's waiting for is to get the go ahead to wear a soft cast, and then she's hoping to come back. Yvonne Hedigan has had a horrendous injury history, as we all know, and she hasn't actually played yet for Sligo Rovers. So she seems to be doing runs before games to try and build up fitness, and I'm not sure what the timeline is on her. As for the rest, Emma Hansbury and Paula McGrory were both sitting in the stand on Saturday. I know Paula McGrory's is an Achilles, so I'm not quite sure of the extent of that. And with Emma Hansbury, I'm not too sure either. But Tommy Hewitt kind of spoke about not rushing anybody back with the nature of their injuries. So I'm not quite sure. But Jodie Lockery came back, and Leah Kelly has come back as well. So I think once you kind of get, like, Zoe McGlynn wasn't there the other evening either. She was missing too. She wasn't in the squad at all, and she is a huge loss when she's not there. So I think if you get one of some of those back, it's progress, But I think, like, you can see they're kind of lacking something up front without Emma Doherty, and there is a real reliance on Emma to kind of get goals or even to create chances. So she's probably the one that they really, really need to get back. And Zoe McGlynn does create a lot of chances too. And look, Emma Hansbury, like, she's such an important player for Sligo Rovers. So, they're missing huge players at the minute. There's no doubt about it. It's had a huge impact on their results and performances the last few weeks.
It's funny, I hadn't even thought of Yvonne Hedigan, and she would be massive. Like, she's been such a good player, but as you said, like, she's had an awful run of injuries, like, but she would be huge. Like, she's brilliant, and her experience alone, like, would be so helpful. Is there a fear, Jessica, and look, you can tell me to not answer, that you won't hold on to Emma Doherty? Like, we speak every week on this podcast about, like, lack of strikers in the league, and I suppose Emma, for me, probably is one of the standout ones, and she has, like, that blistering pace. Is there ever that fear up there?
Yeah, of course. And I did hear last year there was a couple of clubs sniffing around and speaking to Emma. I would say, like, they're kind of blessed, Sligo Rovers, with Emma Doherty, in that she's doing a degree in ATU in Sligo, and she got a scholarship there. And for her, like, obviously, look, you get a scholarship, you're not going to turn it down, and she's naturally going to want to finish that. It's when she finishes her degree what happens after that. She's 20 now. she's been a brilliant player for Sligo Rovers. She's done really, really well. I'm sure Emma has ambitions of going further than Sligo Rovers. And as you said, like she's a natural striker. She's a natural goal scorer. And if she was in a team where she was getting loads of chances created for her, I'm sure Emma would be getting, 13, 14, 15 goals in a season. So yeah, there's definitely a concern that she won't stay. And it was the question people were asking last year when the season ended. Will we hold on to Emma Doherty? Will we not? Thankfully, she is still there. And Emma is a really, really ambitious young player. So I would say like it's probably only a matter of time, I would think, before she probably leaves. And look, who would blame her, But yeah, she'll be a huge loss whenever she does go.
Yeah, I think you're kind of Sligo a bit similar to City, that like if she leaves, like you'd like to see her maybe go across the water and not to another Irish club. Obviously we wish her well wherever she goes, but like it's a lot easier to see them leave the league altogether than make a little trip up the road and break your hearts. But
as happens Sligo Rovers all the time, as happened on Saturday with Casey House scoring twice, but that's just the nature of it, isn't it? Like, and especially where Sligo Rovers are located too. It's like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there was no senior women's league in Sligo until last September. I think it started. So there was no league when Steve Feeney was manager. He had no local league to go around watching to see if there was any local players who would be up to it. He had literally nothing. So he was travelling the length and the breadth of the Northwest trying to find players. And naturally enough, you go across the border, there's players as well playing up north who kind of want to give a go to the league down here. So like, the likes of Casey Howe, Gemma McGuinness even, those kind of players kind of look at Sligo Rovers as a chance to get into the league down here, and then they go on to bigger and better things. And naturally they come back to break everybody's hearts. It happens to the men's team as well. It's part of it, isn't it? It's miserable, but it's part of it.
We love the misery, sure.
We do.
Talking about Casey Howe there, Jess, obviously you said she scored twice on Saturday. The second goal is, again, it's an exceptional goal. The ball across the volleyed cross from Shauna Brennan, the finish from Casey Howe. But you mentioned there players coming down from the north. Obviously, that Casey Howe story has to be a positive one for Sligo Rovers in terms of it's something they can recruit or something they can use and a story they can tell when looking to recruit north of the border.
Yeah, 100%. And like Casey had played for like Ballymallard and team. Obviously, look, she's done really, really well up north. She is from Fermanagh, which is only an hour from Sligo. So it kind of made a lot of sense for her to move to Sligo Rovers just to give it a go down here. It has worked for her. And I think that's maybe why players like Zoe McGlane and Kelly Crompton have both come to Sligo Rovers as well, because they see it as an opportunity to kind of make a bit of a name for themselves across the whole country rather than playing just in the league up north. And like, yeah, it's definitely, it's a selling point for players, 100%. Look at Casey in the Northern Ireland squad again, and like, what a couple of months she's having. Like, she's having an unbelievable season. No surprise to anybody because she looked so good at Sligo Rovers last year. And I think everybody kind of felt a bit sorry for her last year at Sligo Rovers in that there was games where like she was so far ahead of some of the players around her. I'm sure she was probably getting really, really annoyed at times, and herself and Emma Doherty worked really, really well together. But that just shows you as well, there's probably so many players maybe living in kind of maybe Inishowen or across in Derry or something who could probably make it down here and maybe up north as well. But maybe it's the travel, it's the distance, because I mean, someone like Emma Doherty was travelling from Buncrana up and down to Sligo. The Lockeries travel from Buncrana to Sligo, which is well over 2 hours, for training and then for matches, and their families drive them up and down. Like it's such a trek, and for what, like, they're not getting paid for it. I think some of them get mileage expenses, but that's the height of it. And I think Casey Howe was travelling from Belfast last year. So that just shows you the commitment that's involved. You know what I mean? That's what they will do to try and make it. Which is kind of crazy. And yeah, I mean, geographically it's tough for Sligo Rovers because you're not going to be getting players from the Midlands or from surrounding counties, because you've got Galway there as well, who are going to get the better players really from that region. So you do have to look across the border.
Just speaking of Galway very quickly, Jess, does the fact that Galway are doing so well, does that put any kind of added pressure on Sligo Rovers as a club?
I don't think so, because I suppose they've been there and they've been doing it for a long time. And I know Galway WFC folded and they're now Galway United or whatever, but I think they've been there for so long, doing it for so long. And I'm not really sure if they have ever really impacted Sligo Rovers recruitment or anything like that. I mean, at the very start, yes, but that was because Sligo Rovers didn't have a senior women's team. So there was a couple of players who went from our underage setup to Galway's senior team, and similar to Athlone, a lot of Sligo Rovers lost a lot of players like Maren Devaney and Kelsey Monroe, and those kind of players left Sligo Rovers because there was no senior women's team. Now I don't think it's affecting them in that way, because as I said, the better players are if Galway want them, Galway get them. And even like, Maren Devaney is in college in Galway and she's playing for Sligo Rovers. So look, if someone wants to play for Sligo Rovers, they will, but Galway obviously have that pull, and I suppose, look, Galway will attract different players. Sligo Rovers probably are looking more to Donegal, a little bit of Mayo, and kind of Fermanagh, maybe across to Derry. Really, I don't think Galway doing well really impacts them, because Galway are so far ahead of them at the minute, if you get me, that I don't think it makes much of a difference.
Fair enough. I guess we better have a chat about yesterday. Jess, you were on commentary duty, so you had a bird's eye view and a first-hand look at everything that went on. Look, I'm going to play the Tommy Hewitt interview first, I think, and then we can have a chat afterwards. But you caught up with Tommy after the game.
Tommy, what are your immediate thoughts after that game?
Extremely disappointed. I thought that was probably our best performance of the season. I'm probably going to get in trouble over this, but I thought the referee ruined the game for us. 1-0 down, they scored a good goal, Casey scores a good goal, we get a corner, keeper drops it, there's no red player around her, drops into the net, that's 1-1. It's a game changer. Curry Lockery goes by the keeper touches her, Curry doesn't go down, she's on it, she stays on her feet, doesn't bring it back, doesn't book her. That's another game changer. I thought our girls were terrific tonight, they really stuck at it. Bit of quality from Casey, obviously, from Athlone side of it. But what it shows me, and it shows them and the girls, and it showed the public, that we're not too far off this. Maybe one or two players to help this group, but we also need the bounce of the ball, and we need referees to be brave and make the big calls.
To be fair, Athlone are obviously doing really, really well this season, but you put it up to them, and like heads could have easily have dropped after going 1-0 down after 7 minutes, but they played brilliantly.
Yeah, look,
and it might sound silly saying that when you lose 2-0, but they were brilliant.
Look, I've nothing but absolute pride for them girls, genuinely. The way you're right, they didn't drop their heads. I think if that was last year, and no disrespect to anybody here last year, I think they would have dropped the heads, but they're showing the character. Still, we've no points on the board. That's the disappointing thing, but we just need that bounce of the ball, and we need people to be consistent. We need referees to be consistent. It's every week it seems to be a decision. I don't want to be this moany manager, but that's the reality. At this level, that gets me sacked. It gets, and we don't get 3 points on the board. Very disappointed. And
I think, to be fair, Tommy, it's unusual to see you get so worked up at a referee as you did this evening, so that kind of tells you how annoyed you were.
Yeah, like I've the height of respect for referees, absolutely. But tonight I just couldn't deal with the inconsistency. They were fouling, we were fouling. He gave us yellow cards, didn't give them yellow cards. And that's nothing on the Athlone girls, that's just what happens. He needs to be consistent. You see the last one there, Mern breaks by one of their defenders. She's taken out of it, and it's just a free kick. So we need consistency, and that's all I'm asking for. I'll probably get in trouble for this, but I need to say it. I need to say it. But what I want to say is, that's no disrespect to Athlone. Yeah. They came and they won the game. They take 3 points back, but...
Did you get an explanation for the Curry Lockery incident with the goalkeeper? No?
Yeah, they said that there wasn't enough contact to warrant to bring it back, which is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. She takes her. Curry doesn't go down because she's honest. Yeah. So do I have to tell my players to be dishonest? I'm not going to do that.
Does a result, or not a result, but a performance like that give you a bit more confidence? Because I suppose all the talk when you come into these games is you still haven't won, but when you see a performance like that, it's got to give you a little bit of confidence when you might be wondering when it's going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said to you, I knew the girls had that performance, and I know you've seen it yourself, Jess, over the last number of weeks. We haven't been doing too bad. We got 1 or 2 players back from injuries, which strengthened us, but I thought the girls that come on did very well as well. The younger girls, Jess, Ciara Henry was very good in the middle, and Kate, so that's good as well, but we still don't have 3 points on the board, and that's the disappointing thing, but we'll move on to 2 weeks' time in DLR.
You have a break, obviously, international break. How are you going to use that week off?
Yeah, look, we'll give the girls some time off, and then what we'll do is we get back in training then and focus on DLR, but we just have to keep the mood of the girls and the spirit of the girls high, and they're disappointed, but it's football, we'll just move on.
Tommy, thanks a million.
Jess, a very annoyed, I suppose, Tommy Hewitt post-game. Look, there was a number of decisions that went against Sligo, to be fair. I suppose, look, just timeline, Athlone went 1 up after 6 minutes. Sligo didn't get done defensively very much during the game, but they did get done. A ball over the top, Roisin Malloy onto it, squared it for Casey Howe for probably her easiest finish of the season so far. But from that point on, Sligo really put themselves back in the game. They went toe-to-toe with Athlone. And you had this situation where perfectly good corner, keeper drops it over the line, and Alan Patchell blows the whistle for a free out. I've watched it 20 odd times, I think. Eileen's watched it numerous times. Neither of us can see anything wrong with it. It was pretty clear in commentary. You couldn't see anything wrong with it. So Tommy Hewitt says he hopes he's not going to get in trouble. But to be fair to him, I don't think he's overstepped any marks. And he's quite right in what he's saying.
Yeah. Like, I would have assumed when the keeper dropped the ball that there was someone nearby or there was something, but I mean at the time I couldn't see it, and I thought maybe I'm an idiot and I'm going blind and I can't see anything. And yeah, I don't understand that one. And that would have changed the game. It would have changed the game, because Sligo Rovers, towards the end of the first half, they were playing actually really, really well, and you think that once they concede so early on, you're thinking that's it, like that's game over already, and Athlone could get 5 or 6 here, but it wasn't the case. And yeah, look, the keeper wasn't tested a whole pile in that first half, I don't think. But that incident, yeah, I still don't really know. And clearly Tommy hasn't got any explanation for it either. As you said, very angry, Tommy Hewitt, which isn't really like him. But I think it was clear from that match that, like, there was the Kerry Lockery incident too as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. But those are decisions which will cost you a game. And look, there's nothing to say that even if they had got those decisions that they would have went on and won it or got a point or anything. But it's just very, very annoying when you're fighting for your life towards the bottom of the table and those things go against you. Yeah, Tommy was right. Myrne Devaney was cleaned out of it towards the end, and it was just a free kick, I think. So I can see why he's really, really angry, but it's not like him to be that angry. So it speaks volumes about what kind of went on, that he was that annoyed that he actually decided to have a go at the referee afterwards. And he spoke to the referee at full time, Tommy, and for a while actually as well. So that just tells you.
Yeah, Eileen, I guess the surprising thing here in a way is that Alan Patchell is somebody who has refereed across all 3 divisions this year. He's a very experienced referee. As I said, he's done numerous Premier Division, men's First Division games throughout his career. He would be known as a referee who gives out a lot of cards in the men's game. That hasn't really transferred to when he does women's games. But it's an appalling decision. I mean, there's no other word to use, really, Eileen, is there?
Yeah, it's not good enough. Like, I understand referees they have a really hard job. I get that. But like, that's not good enough. You're being paid to do a job. We're trying to, like, this league is improving. And what's not improving at all is the refereeing. It's consistently bad. Like, every single weekend we see these decisions. Now, to be fair, like, that is the worst decision, one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in any level of football. Like, it's incredibly bad. Like, I've no idea what must be going through his mind. Like, and it's so frustrating for managers. You put in so much, and like Jessica said it there, like, Sligo Rover players aren't being paid. They're all putting in these massive miles every week to come down training. They've had a really hard start to the season. Said they're fighting for their lives, and then they get to deal with that shit. Like, it's not good enough, and referees have to be held accountable, and they have to be willing to come out and explain why I made this decision, especially on calls that games hang on, like, because it's not good enough. And like, Tommy Hewitt's dead right to come out and call it, because if that's in the men's game and someone like Damien Duff comes out, as he did last year, calling out referees, he's lauded for it. He's doing the right thing. He's pushing our game forward. For me, that's what Tommy Hewitt's doing it, because a lot of clubs, to be fair, like, you do brilliant up in Sligo, Jess, because you have pre-game interviews with him, you have post-game interviews with him, and it's important that managers are able to get their say, and we don't hear from managers too often, like, and we need to hear from them, because that's how you build a game, because you get to know managers, you get to know their personalities, and you get to see people like Tommy who's willing to potentially get himself in trouble for the good of his club and for the good of the game in general, because that's not good enough. It's simply not good enough, and there will be no repercussions for him. I guarantee you he'll be out in the Premier Division next Friday night, bank holiday Monday at the worst, like, and that's exactly it. And those girls just have to put the heads down and get on with it. And I just think players, managers, everyone in this league deserve a lot better, and there needs to be repercussions for referees games are being affected that badly, especially teams down the bottom. I just think it's just not good enough for me.
Yeah, and the other thing I think as well, when there's a bad refereeing decision in the men's game, naturally, because it has higher viewership, we see it all over social media and it's discussed. And there's a lot of, was it correct? Was it right? Was it wrong? Blah, blah, blah. And people get talking about it. But because it's the women's game, no one bothers talking about it. And it's kind of like, just put up and shut up kind of thing. And if you complain, you get nowhere with it anyway. But like, I mean, there was two really bad decisions in that Sligo Rovers game. And, we're discussing it now. That's fine. But like, I'm not sure anybody else knows about it, because you'd have to clip it up and share it on social media yourself. I'm not sure if it was included in the highlights package that went up. I don't know. I didn't watch it, but I don't trust those highlights packages anyway, because they're usually just a quick job, really, aren't they? And you rarely see the big controversial decisions anyway. So I didn't watch it back, but Tommy Hewitt, to be fair, wanted to discuss it, because he's like, how else are we going to raise kind of awareness, I suppose, of what went on the other day? If I don't talk about it, it can just be hidden away now, because nobody's going to discuss it. It's not going to be clipped and put up on social media. So I need to say it,
Well, look, I will screen grab it, screen record it and screen grab it and put it out tomorrow when the pod goes out. So hopefully people will be able to retweet it and see it for themselves. I'm hoping I can do it anyway. Look, we'll see how we go technology-wise. I'm not in the best spot at the moment. This podcast was nearly cancelled tonight because my technology nearly fell apart. But thankfully we're here. Tommy mentioned consistency, Eileen, and it was the main focus of his. Like, to be fair to him, he wasn't having to go on that loan. He didn't really, like, he said the referee had a poor game, but I don't think he overstepped the line in his criticism. So if he gets himself in trouble, I'd be pretty annoyed about it. He spoke about consistency, and obviously Sligo have that goal disallowed. And then I pointed out to you in the 23rd minute at the other end, Hardy, the Sligo keeper, gets cleaned out when coming for a cross by an Athlone player, and there's no free out. And it's like, I mean, the contact is 150 times more extensive than there was at the other end when he disallowed a goal. And the consistency is, as Tommy has said, it's just not there. And we're talking about Alan Patchell in this game, but there's numerous examples across the season of consistency within games. It's almost a lottery as to whether you're going to get a decision or not at times.
Absolutely. Like, you could go through every single Women's National League game from this weekend and see it. Like, I was, Peamount DLR was the same. Like, it was just so inconsistent. It's really frustrating. Like, and the games fall on it, like, on some decisions. And there's, as you said, there's no consistency. And not only that, there's no consistency one week to the next. There's no consistency from the men's game. It's the same game. It's a game of football. The rules are the same. Do you know what I mean? But like, the games are still being refereed totally differently. Like, it's on a men's game, you see them, they cursing the referees out of it. Like, if a female player even says, "What's that for?" they're being booked. Like, I don't know. It's bizarre. I don't know. I wouldn't like to speculate for people on power trips or something like that. But I don't know. It's not good enough. And it's that until there's an accountability there, it's not going to be good enough. I know there's talks that the referees are going to fall in under the coach education department, under kind of Niall O'Regan's remit, and there would be, and I think that would be a really good thing to happen. I know Niall, and I know he would probably maybe have a plan where things would be kind of looked at more consistently and maybe developed and mistakes learned from. But right now that's not happening, and it's something that's letting the game down, both the men's and the women's side, because we're talking about it every weekend. There's always something to talk about, and there's always a big thing to talk about between the two leagues, I think.
So, to be fair to the FAI, and I might break out in a rash after saying this, but there has been an influx of young referees, especially this season. You've like Aaron O'Dowd, who did the Shamrock Rovers Galway game last night. I think that was his third women's game of the season. Lucas Keating has done 2 women's game, I think. He's done a number of the men's first division games. Somebody told me there's a plan to have him doing Premier Division games by the end of the season. He's on a bit of a fast track. I've the other laptop now, and I've all these names and all their details.
You
and
love the
I can't
referees.
think. There are 2 or 3 referees who are being fast tracked towards Premier Division football, but they're always introduced at the women's level. But we're talking about an experienced referee here, as I said, in Alan Patchell. Jess, then we get to the second incident, which is Kerry Lockery. It's a poor back pass. She intercepts it. Keane comes outside the area, catches her. She doesn't go down because she feels the ball is still there and she still has an opportunity to score. But she does stumble. She is impeded. She is denied the goal scoring opportunity. And by the time she gets half a shot away, the centre-back has got around and covered anyway and blocked it. And your commentary, you say, I wonder, is he going to revisit that? And very quickly you realise he's not revisiting it as Athlone hook it out of play. And the game continues. And it's another baffling decision because, as Tommy says, because his player stays on her feet and tries to score, she's punished. And like, I don't want to see keepers sent off. I certainly don't want to see young keepers sent off. But it's denial of a goal scoring opportunity. The rules are the rules. They're there. Everybody knows what they are. In my opinion, it's a red card. It's clear as day it's a red card. And as I said here now, I still have no idea. Now, Tommy said he was told there wasn't enough contact. So the referee's admitting there was contact, there just wasn't enough. When is enough? I mean, it doesn't really make much sense, to be honest.
Yeah, I think at the time, to be fair, I will say there was a huge Athlone crowd there. I say huge, but a big percentage of the crowd that was there was Athlone as well. So at the time, there was a few groans, and then people were like, "Oh God, has he not actually given that?" And yeah, I'm not sure on that decision. I was sure he paused, and then he thought, "Okay, is she going to score? Okay, we'll pull it back if the chance goes." But no, Katie Keane is a brilliant goalkeeper and she's done brilliant for Athlone. There's no doubt about it. But that I would have thought was a red card. And Kerry Lockery is a young player at Sligo Rovers. As Tommy said, does he have to ask them to be dishonest now when those things happen? He doesn't want to, because as we kind of spoke off air about this, but they're a very nice bunch of players and never want to complain too much at the referee. So Kerry's instinct is obviously to keep going, because she stumbled, as you said, Declan, and she kept going and she kept trying to. But then, by the time the centre half caught up with her, that was it. The chance was gone and the game goes on. And then Maren Devaney gets booked for complaining to the referee about not giving the red card. So, yeah, you can see why Tommy Hewitt is so annoyed by that one. The ref says not enough contact. I mean, where's the scale for what's enough contact and what isn't, and that's the problem. Is that was a pretty big decision to make, and I'm not sure anyone would have told you afterwards it was the correct one. It was disastrous. Like, I think it was Roisin Malloy's back pass that she kind of played too short, or she didn't see Kerry Lockery was there, and Kerry runs in and she steals it, and you think, here we go, like, goal for Sligo Rovers. But yeah, it was disastrous. It was a poor decision from the referee, and Athlone were breathing a sigh of relief after that, probably wondering how they got away with that one. But that was a talking point afterwards, definitely. Yeah, and I get it. Tommy Hewitt is putting himself on the line, having a go, but I think everybody would agree with him when he's given out about that one.
Eileen, back to Tommy's consistency again. I don't know if either of you guys remember this, but maybe 5 weeks ago, Alan Patchell sent off a Treaty United player at Markets Field, 35 yards from goal. This was in the men's first division now. 35 yards from goal. He's trying to take a booking to bring a player down. Alan Patchell, I think, when I saw it initially, I thought that's a mad decision. But looking back to the whole denial of the goal scoring opportunity, the player's back don't matter anymore. It's, are you denying a goal scoring opportunity? And the argument was, there's cover thing. 35 yards from goal, clean, took him out. Alan Patchell sent him off for denying a goal scoring opportunity. Here, keeper's last player, 2 yards outside the area, catches the forward, but it's not denied of a goal scoring opportunity. Consistency.
And she's punished for being honest. Like, she's punished for trying to stay up there. You can't be honest in the game anymore. The game has no room for that now, because I remember playing a game myself. Now, this is obviously gone back 15 years, and a girl on my team was clipped and like that. She tried to stay up, and I said to the referee, where's the penalty? And he was like, oh, sure, she didn't go down. I was like, that doesn't make it not a foul. Like, that's nonsense. You can't expect. Then you have referees saying, yeah, but like, they're trying to con us. Yeah, but when they're trying to be honest, you're ignoring it. Like, so you can't have it both ways. Like, that player, Jodie Lockery, tries to do the right thing, and she's punished for it. Like, and I get his frustration saying, am I supposed to tell her to go down there? Unfortunately, yeah, you have to tell her now. At the slightest contact, you have to go down. And I spoke to another manager yesterday, and it was again at the Peamount game, and it was about Peamount's second penalty, and my mother said was behind the goal. She said, oh, she went down very easy. That wasn't what she said. She said something way worse, but I won't repeat it. And I was like, but your mum, look, that's football. Like, she has to go down there. And my mum was like, no, that's not fair. That's not fair. And the manager with me was like, oh, I'd be telling my player to go down. Like, and that's the reality of where we are, like, because if, as I said, in that case, like, she tried to stay up and she tried to do the honest thing. And I think she was punished for that, because of course it was a red card. Like, it's a foul all day long. Like, so yeah, I felt for Sligo. I felt quite bad for Sligo all season, because I just think nothing is going their way. Like if they didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck at all. And anyway, look, they've DLR in 2 weeks, and I think it's probably a good one to kind of focus and hopefully have a few players back. And if the thing with Doherty is only her hand, hopefully, as said, if she's in a soft cast, like, she'd be a big plus coming back for them. And I thought at the weekend, Muireann Devaney and Laurie Ryan was a brilliant battle, wasn't it? All day long,
class,
like, yeah, like, they neither of them gave an inch, like, they kicked lumps out of each other, like, it was, yeah, really good to watch, and a really honest battle, like, between the two of them. There was no nonsense there. It was really, really good to watch.
Yeah, and I was saying as well afterwards, like, I think like someone like Muireann Devaney as well, she brings a lot of aggression in a good way, if you like, to Sligo Rovers, because she's not afraid to get stuck in on someone. And you saw that battle with herself and Laurie Ryan. Like, obviously they play together and they know each other really well, but Muireann Devaney does that brilliantly, and she just brings a little bit more of that kind of aggression to Sligo Rovers. Emma Doherty is good at that too. She always leaves the boot in maybe a little bit, and people complain about that, but she wasn't there. So you need someone like Muireann Devaney just to drive others on. And we spoke about this, before we started recording, but Sligo Rovers don't complain enough about decisions that go against them. And Muireann Devaney is kind of the one who's speaking up the whole time, having to go at referees about that kind of thing, because traditionally Sligo Rovers would have been kind of like, oh, we're new to the league and we don't want to complain, we don't want to be seen to be moaners and all that kind of thing. But if you don't ask, you don't get, and you just need to be a little bit more vocal. You need to annoy referees a little bit. I know people don't like to see it all the time. You don't like to watch a team who are constantly moaning at the referee, moaning at each other or the opposition players or whatever, but we kind of want to see that a little bit more as spectators, don't we? Like, we want to see that. We kind of want to see players standing up for themselves a little bit. And Muireann Devaney is good at it. And there's a few other players. Kelsey Munro as well is brilliant at it too. And they're two players who their game has like, they're going to bring an awful lot to Sligo Rovers in terms of just encouraging others to kind of, get stuck in. Don't let her push you off the ball. Like, stand up for yourself a little bit more. And they're two big assets in that sense. And obviously, like, the likes of Emma Hansbury and those players as well. But that's just what Sligo Rovers need a little bit more of now. They will actually take huge confidence from that defeat on Saturday in how they played. And as we said, look, things went against them big time, as they have been all year, like with injuries and refereeing decisions and all that. But I think Tommy Hewitt will be quite pleased with kind of how they played and their determination and their hard work. Because I suppose, look, you've got to take some positives, haven't you?
Jess, before we leave you go, what's your feeling about kind of how the feeling around the camp is? Do you think it's a negative vibe around the place, or do you think the players really believe that once they get the likes of Emma Doherty back, and that there is an ability and there is a talent within the squad to push up the table in the second half of the season?
Yeah, I'm certainly not getting any kind of negativity or any bad feeling around the dressing room, I suppose. And look, maybe you could argue that there should be, because of how things are going, and maybe it's time that you start moving on from the whole, isn't it great to be in the league and isn't it great to have a senior women's team? But that's always going to be there as long as Sligo Rovers are kind of still one of the newer teams in it. Like, I know Shamrock Rovers are younger, if you like, in it, but they came in and signed and had the ability to sign loads of brilliant players. So, it's kind of not really the same. And from a Sligo Rovers perspective now, you're kind of like, Steve Feeney did a great job over the first 2 years with building a squad and putting a structure in place, and he left, and Tommy Hewitt's job is to take it up to the next level. And like he said all along, it was going to take a while, because he was kind of bringing in an awful lot of new players, and I don't know, from a training point of view, is it different or how people feel about it, but he kind of just wants to bring a little bit more professionalism, if you like, to it. And I think there is a feeling that once they get players back, things will start to pick up. And look, they just need to start picking up points, and they will build more confidence. Like, they had 2 difficult first years in the league as it was, but they picked up kind of some freak wins, if you like, beating Shelburne and wins like that kind of came out of nowhere. But, there might have been a bit more naivety about them the last couple of years, and I don't think they're the same now, but it's They just need something that'll give them hope, and they need to pick up points somewhere. If they could get back to where they were the first day of the season when they drew with Shelburne, they'd be delighted putting in those kind of performances. But it's going to take a few weeks to get some players back, and I think people seem to enjoy playing under Tommy Hewitt. Tommy's a nice guy, and he's obviously a good manager. He's done great things in the league, so and he's a fairly high profile manager for Sligo Rovers as well. Signed some high profile players too. So I like there's no pressure on them. Nobody at showgrounds is screaming abuse at them and or anything like that. But they're going to want to start picking up results, because it's hard to drag yourself up and down the country every single week if you're getting beaten every single week. So I'm sure from their own point of view, they're going to hope that things are going to pick up sooner rather than later. And I would imagine they will, fingers crossed, when they get players back. But, they'll want them back pretty quickly, you would think.
Very quickly, Jess, because we have to leave you go away. The fact that they had their bye week following that 0-0 draw on the opening day away to Sligo, I've always felt that really worked against them, and that it didn't give them the ability to take that momentum from that Shelburne game into a second game on the back of it. And then, you have the bye week, and then you're into the third week, and you've almost forgotten about the Shelburne performance, and you've lost that momentum. Is that fair to say, do you think?
Yeah, I think so, because the first few weeks were a disaster in terms of, like, I know Sligo Rovers played Shelburne. It was like international break, back to it, and then there was like All Ireland Cup, and then I think was there an international break as well early on? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But the first few weeks were just all over the place, and it did stunt momentum. I know you want to say momentum after one game, but yeah, I think so. I know Declan, you speak about this a lot about the bye and the week after and all that, but I do think it kind of killed them a little bit in that first week, because when you play a game, you want a game to come quickly afterwards. Whether you win, lose or draw, you want to move on to the next game, and they couldn't do that. So yeah, the first few weeks were all over the shop, and really hard for anyone to kind of build any momentum. So yeah, I do buy into that. Whether we're just wearing our tinfoil hats or something, I don't know, but I'm with you on that one. Definitely.
Me wearing a tinfoil hat? Nobody would believe it, surely. Listen, Jess, thanks a million for joining us and giving us that insight into the only real Rovers in the country. And what we'll do is we might try touch base with you later in the season again and have another quick chat. In the meantime, if Tommy Hewitt does find himself in trouble because we've played that interview, tell him give us a shout and we'll try and pay his fine or something, because it's not our intention to be trying to get people in
Tommy
trouble,
might be listening, so
yeah, hopefully. Well, look, if he is, I picked Sligo Rovers as the surprise package. It was purely on the back of Tommy's appointment. I thought he could go in there and do a really good job. So, look, there's still time. There's definitely still time. Jess, thanks a million for your time. We said 10 minutes. We're a long way over 10 minutes now, so we do appreciate your time on a Sunday night. And best of luck to Sligo Rovers for the rest of the season as well.
Thanks, guys. A pleasure. Honoured to be on.
Following Sligo getting absolutely screwed over, Eileen, by everyone. And we all headed to Tala, except you, because you were driving home. But the rest of us all tuned into TG Cahir to see Galway win again. 1-0 away at Shamrock Rovers. Eve Dawson with the only goal. To be fair, I didn't think Shamrock Rovers were bad. They just have no ability to put the ball in the net. And it's really starting to haunt them now. I mean, we knew it was haunting them all along, but I mean, they had a couple of half chances early on in the game. Joy Ralph got in and couldn't get around Berlin, the keeper, who did very well to pinch the ball off her toe. Then there was another chance, was it Ralph again? And Eve Dawson got back to her and knocked it clear and took it away. And there was a great piece of defending from Eve Dawson. Galway score, and then the big chance comes 2 minutes into injury time at the end of the first half. Anya O'Gorman, you think she can't miss from the position she finds herself in, and she does knock it over. And I don't think they really threatened second half. They had a lot of the ball, but I never got the impression they were going to score a goal.
Yeah, you listen to you see interviews, like the interview with the manager before the game, and all on about how well they're playing, and but he's just forgetting, the most important thing is football is to score a goal. Do you know what I mean? It's no good playing good. It's not worth anything. It's worth nothing to them that they have lovely build-up play and can move the ball in one touch. It's worth nothing. Like, it's literally not worth you're not going to get a point on the board because you can pass the ball in lovely one-touch movement. Like, it's not going to get you anything. Like, I don't think Galway were at the level they normally are, but like, that's a sign of a great team. Like, to go and it's not an easy place to go to. Like, and I think Shamrock Rovers are a wounded animal at the moment, as well. But even though Galway weren't at it, and I would say like probably didn't play as free flowing football maybe at times as what Shamrock Rovers do, Amanda Budden had made some brilliant saves late on. Like, the two keepers were excellent, but like Amanda had to make some brilliant, like big saves late on, like to keep the scoreline level. Galway are just, they're so good, and they're so good on both ends, at both ends of the game, and they have a good squad there. Like, Aisling Meany, when she came on, was outstanding. She was brilliant, like, and
Unreal.
I think the thing with Phil Trill before the game, like he said, like people put their hands up the week before, so he's made changes, and like Ashling's come on there now and she's put her hand up, like, to be included. Like, it'd be very hard to leave her out after that cameo. Like, she was outstanding. Like, from Shamrock Rovers, I thought Jess Hennessy looked, she had a really good game. I think she did a big tackle on Julianne Russell in like the first or second minute, and it really settled her. And I think she really needed kind of a moment like that to just kind of remember, hold it now, I am a very good player. I've had a rough few weeks. And I think from there on, I thought she was really good. Good game. But yeah, that Galway train keeps on rolling, and there's a lot of similarities in some of the ways like they're getting results in bigger games with that Peamount team that won it last year, I think. And the fact that like we know like that they can play this beautiful champagne football and they have the ability to destroy teams, but now we know they can maybe not be at it and they'll still find a way to win because they're so solid at the back. They're so solid at the back. And look, that restricted Rovers as well, I think. It wasn't just a case of, oh, Rovers can't create anything. Like they kept Leah O'Leary to as minimum as what you can keep her. Like, as you said earlier, like Knievy was brilliant, like had a really good game. So I said I don't think maybe necessarily that Shamrock Rovers like failed to create more than that Galway stopped them as well, I think.
Yeah. Like Julianne Russell said the same thing in the interview afterwards with TG Carr. She said she felt Galway didn't play really well. So I'm no way am I going to argue with Julianne Russell and Eileen Ring. But I thought they did in so much that they managed the game really well. They sat in, they said to Rovers, he can come at us. And then they brought Meany on and they caught Rovers on the break 2 or 3 times. And it could easily have been, as you said, only for Amanda Budden, Meany could easily have had 2. It could have been a 3-0. No, it would have been harsh on Rovers, obviously. But as I said, it was just, I thought Galway's second half just managed the game really, really well. And as I said, I never thought they were going to concede. You mentioned Leo O'Leary, you mentioned Teresa Knievy. Like, to me, and people say, oh, he's bullshitting here now and it's easy to be after timing. But Knievy's a player I've meant to mention the last couple of weeks and either have forgotten or we've been going on so long I've decided to leave it off. But like, there's a number of players in this league who are just going under the radar, who are really underrated. And I do think Teresa Knievy is right at the top of that list. You know, Grace McInerney at Treaty is another player who's probably really underrated and who's doing really well. But like, Knievy had Leo O'Leary's number in that game, and like we all know Leah's probably going abroad and she's going to, but like, to me, Knievy's the best right back in the league, and I have absolutely no problem saying that. Like,
yeah, she's been brilliant this season. I think I have a couple of players that are like that. I think Kay Thompson in the centre of the park there, like kind of in front of their back four, is the same. Like, she's never mentioned, like, and she's brilliant. Like, she's so good. She's probably a huge reason they're as solid as what they are. But as you said, like, I think while obviously, look, you want your players to get the credit they deserve, and I'm sure internally they do get that. Like, there's another part of, as a manager, you're delighted, like, because no one's ever then in a kind of a team meeting before games going to say, oh, look out for X, Y, or Z, because they're essentially floating under the radar. And as you said, like, they're some of the top performers in the league, and like, they just need to keep going out and doing their thing. And I'm sure it'll be worth a lot more to Trace Knievy or Kay Thompson at the end of the season if they've league winners medal in their arse pocket, other than, you know, people on Twitter or media or us on here blowing smoke up their arse every week. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think they're just putting their head down. They're going about their business in a really, really good way. When I say like that, I don't think they were at their best. They weren't at that, like, just destroying a team best that we have seen that they're capable of. Like, as I said, it's just, and it's what makes a good side. And as you said, like, that they have the capability to manage a game. Like, and I said, Julianne, you see, like, obviously she got player of the game. She was really, really creative, but she offers so much on the other end of it as well. Like, and it's such an outlet, because she'll always be fouled. Like, they're always just she's just going to get kicked. She, like, and I said, when she was playing at international level, like, she was always one of the most fouled players, like, in every qualifying campaign, not just for Ireland, like in the entire of Europe, like. So like, that'll kind of tell you the level she's at there. But I thought, like, you saw the other side of her game as well. She's an energizer bunny. Like, she just runs all night and offers a lot defensively. And yeah, like, big result for Galway, I think, in Tala, because despite said Rovers' current position in the league, like, you're still not going to get an easy game off them, like. And they're adjusting, I think, to that three at the back. It looks like it's going to be good, but it's going to take time, I think, to bed in, like, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, it was 3-4-3, more or less 3-4-3 anyway, or some kind of bastardized version of it at times, you know. But you did have, I know, but I don't mean that, like, but Scarlett Herring was back in the centre, and Maria Reynolds, Shauna Fox, and Jess Hennessy.
And Scarlett's a lot more effective centrally for them, like, I think. A lot more effective. Like, she can have more of a say in the game, like.
Very much so. Obviously Leo O'Leary on the left. Right, so that was the weekend that was anyway. Look, Shamrock Rovers are third from bottom. I don't want to go on banging about them again, but third from bottom. There's 2 weeks off now. I presume they just need to get their head down, work on the shape, get used to that three at the back, and look to bounce back. Like, they have a kind of half decent run of fixtures coming up, or they'll see it that way anyway. So, like, what are you expecting for them, say, over the next 3 or 4 games back, Eileen?
I'm not expecting a whole pile from them, if I'm being honest. I haven't seen anything that I suddenly think they're going to go on this great big run of wins. Like, I don't see that in them. I think they'll start picking up a couple of wins, but, like, I think they come back and they go to Dalymount, like, and look, obviously that's a big game for them as a club. I think that's probably a game I hope we will see a big crowd at, because the crowds this week were they were piss poor across the league. And I think Bows do a lot of really good work in the community up there, and as a result they generally have quite good crowds. So look, I don't expect to see Shamrock Rovers go on a big run. I think they'll try to bring in a striker. I think there might be strikers available both here and abroad, but I don't think necessarily Shamrock Rovers now looks like the outstanding maybe destination that people thought it was at this time last year. While they have things to offer, so do other clubs, and I think people want to be at a club that I suppose looks harmonious, and you want to be in a squad that seems happy and together, and that's not something I see from Shamrock Rovers. But yeah, like I said, I do think they're going to start picking up results, but are they going to suddenly be in a mix for a title? Absolutely not. Like,
yeah, I know there's no chance of that. As we said, look, they play Bows next. We're not here next weekend, so we will run very quickly through the games for the 8th of June, which is round 9, and the next set of fixtures. As you mentioned, Shamrock Rovers go to Bows. DLR at home to Sligo. That's a big game all of a sudden, Eileen, for both clubs. Sligo will view it as a good chance to get a victory, get their first victory, and DLR will obviously be looking to push on after their fine performance away at Peamount on Saturday.
Yeah, I think the break, again, like, DLR are going to be cursing this break. Like, they've had 2 really good performances on the trot, and they're not going to want a week off. But it is a game both sides are 100%. They'll have been looking at the start of the season saying, here's 3 points, and they're definitely both going to be looking at it now saying, here's 3 points. I think it's a difficult one to call, and I think with this league, I did desperate predictions last week. I think I got them all wrong. No, sorry, I said Galway would win. That was the only one I got right. And Athlone, sorry, I got 2. I think I think because Jess just convinced me earlier on, I think Sligo are going to get their first win of the season. I think like with Tommy Hewitt's interview there, like as a squad, that's something that helps. Like, you know that your manager is willing to go out and put his head on the block for you, for how he feels about the squad, for how he feels about like the treatment that they're after receiving. And I think something like that can galvanise a squad. I'm not saying that Laura Heffernan wouldn't do the same, but she hasn't been given the opportunity. And look, that's something we need to see more of as well. It's something that Sligo are doing off their own back. They do. You hear from Tommy during the week. Jess will do an interview with him. You hear from him after their home games. Every club should be doing that. Every club should be made to do that, because you need to see managers, you need to see their personalities coming out. And he said, you see a brilliant interview from Tommy Hewitt, and he gave another brilliant interview after their last home game. I think clubs have to be better there on that front, getting content with their manager, not just little written pieces. And it shouldn't always be up to kind of outside outlets. I think it's something clubs need to do.
Oh, look, yeah, there's so much. I wanted to have a chat tonight about attendances and marketing and all that kind of stuff, but we're going on way too long. So we'll have to leave it till the next. Yeah, leave it till the next episode. Cork City play at Athlone, Eileen. I reckon all the rings will have all their welcome home Kieran banners made, and, you know, here comes Kilduff, and there'll be a guard of honour for Kieran Kilduff as he enters Turner's Cross.
From some of the rings, but I'll be there on my eggs, don't worry. Throw them. Yeah, look, I suppose we probably didn't talk about Athlone that much because we were speaking so much about Sligo, but like they weren't great at the weekend and they still won 2-0. Like they, like again, as we spoke about Galway earlier, like even when they're not pulling sides apart, they're still getting wins. Like Casey Howe was brilliant at the weekend. She destroyed us last year with Sligo. Like she absolutely destroyed us. Like, so I'd be a little bit fearful. But look, City now, after 2 bad ones in a row, so we're definitely due a good one. So obviously Cork City are going to upset Athlone's title charge. Sorry, Kieran.
I presume Athlone will come down and just press the absolute shit out of Cork City after seeing what Shelburne did to them on Saturday.
They will, and I think Athlone do that to a lot of sides anyway, don't they? Like they've huge energy and they've huge pace everywhere, like it. So that is going to be something like we need to set up for, and maybe get like we don't always have to play out from the back. Go long, please.
Very much so. Wexford will travel to Galway. Like, best of luck there, lads.
And you know what the thing is, like even like when Wexford were having like their glory years and winning, like Galway was somewhere a team they always struggled with, like always did. So like it's kind of a traditional thing where Galway nearly have one over on them. So maybe it'll turn now that Galway are approaching their glory years. Wexford might become their bogey side. No, I fancy Galway to win.
Yeah, keep on trucking. And finally, Shelburne go down to Marcus Fields to play Treaty. I might travel up to that one now from Mallow. It's an easy spin, depending on the kickoff time and the rest of it. So we'll see what happens. There might be some live reports from Marcus Field that day, but Treaty are just gone off the boil ever so little, Eileen, are they?
Maybe a little bit, but I just think it's always about that. Like, there's no consistency. Like the teams that are going to be like in around, like say outside of the top 3 are going to struggle for consistency, like because the league is so competitive. So like Treaty aren't going to fear anything with Shelburne coming down. They're not. Like, I don't think Treaty are going to fear any side this year. They're going into every game thinking they're capable of winning it, and they are capable of beating any team. Shelburne said, I thought Shelburne were brilliant at the weekend, and they look like a side who are getting better and better. I suppose getting more used to the manager and how he wants them to play and things like that. But be a tough test going down to Marketsfield. I don't think any team has had an easy game there. Like, and Peamount were lucky to come out of there, like only for that very late winner and a brilliant goal that day. So, an interesting game. It's a good shout, actually. It's a good one to go to. If City weren't playing at home, I actually wouldn't mind going up to that myself. But I leave it off.
Oh yeah, City were at home. Yeah, City were at home. I forgot about that.
Oh, Judas.
Yeah. I might be banned from Turner's Cross by the time that game comes around. There's going to be 2 men's pods between now and then, so I could be banned. So I might have no choice to go to Marketsfield. It's going to be.
Do you know what, Declan? Do you know what I got in Talca Park? I got Shelburne gear. So if you would like to wear a top going up, I could give you a lend.
I can tell you this much now. Whatever Shelburne gear you got that fits you, it ain't going to go over my head. Not mind anywhere else. Jesus Christ. Oh my good God. I wish. If it would fit me, I would wear it just to say Eileen's clothes fit me. But as I said, I don't think they go over my head. But like, just it would be great though to see in that Treaty Shelburne game, Shelburne's right back, Ava O'Mahony, running directly at Treaty's right back, Grace McInerney. That's a battle I'm really looking forward to seeing because, you know, make it make sense. Please, somebody make it make sense. Anyway. On that note, I think that about wraps it all up, Eileen, after about 7.5 hours. I'm going to blame Jessica Farry. That's the reason.
I thought it'd only be 45 minutes because there was two of us. I forgot it was the two of us who talk most of this shit. So sorry. If you made it this far, well done. Well done. I salute you, but get a hobby. Yeah. If you made it this far, get a hobby, I think.
Poor John. Poor John will be welcome back just to keep things ticking over. Guys, enjoy the international games. Enjoy the break. We will be back in 2 weeks' time where we will review week 9, look ahead to week 10, and I'm sure there'll be loads. Like, there's 2 weeks, there has to be loads of crap happening in the meantime anyway, Eileen. So until then, guys, thanks for listening if you have listened to it all, and adios.
Adios.